right, welcome, Rotanna Onyedi.
Thank you.
It's been a long time coming. And so in this interview, we would like you to just be at home. You're talking to me, but you're talking to thousands of young people who are looking for guidance. So tell us your name again, and what did you study in school in your first degree? And what are you doing now? What you studied in school and what you are doing now? When you graduated, so that they can have an idea that they are talking to an ancestor, actually. And
it's where you call it ancestor. Okay. My name is Rotanna Onyedi. I studied pure industrial chemistry at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, between 2006 and 2002 and 2006. So I graduated at end of 2006. Like you know now, Nigeria, after you graduate, you go for service. I served in Kwara State, and right after, okay, let me just talk about what I do now, and then maybe
we'll talk about how
very interesting. All right, so I said I studied pure industrial chemistry, but currently I'm a HR practitioner. I currently work as a senior HR manager for Seplat Energy PLC. Seplat Energy PLC is an indigenous energy company in Nigeria. We have 2 offices. We are presently located in 2 countries, Nigeria and the UK, and I'm responsible for a particular aspect of HR, which is compensation and benefits for both countries. So compensation, let me try to break down the English. So compensation and benefits, when you think of HR, we just think HR is high and fire, but there's a lot to that, right? So my aspect of HR is a specialist area, and that's the area that deals with everything pay. So salaries, bonuses, incentives, stock options, policies that guides all of that, designing all of that. That's basically what I do for.
I think that'll be important for us, because people need to understand what they need to do to command certain kinds of income in any industry they're going to. What are organizations looking at to be able to make some offers and all that? And people need to know even what to ask for when they begin to attend interviews. Now, my second question is, how did you move from pure and industrial chemistry? You were at Kava building in UNN, and we thought you were going to be a professor. You finished it too.
A scientist, or just checking test tubes in the lab.
And all that. What happened? How did you switch from pure industrial chemistry to HR and this specialty of compensation and benefits? What happened?
Okay, so I would say a couple of coincidences, which at the time I did not realize that I was working. So forgive me if I sound a bit religious here, but I would, okay, thank you. So I would say that God has also played a significant role in my journey so far. So I was doing things without really understanding what I was doing, but I was doing things. You know, at the time, I did not understand. I got to understand after the fact. So I guess people who are listening to this, you know, they are going to enjoy something that I did not enjoy. They're going to have a privilege to some insights that I did not have at the time. So I studied pure industrial chemistry, and candidly, at the time that I was studying pure industrial chemistry, what led me to pure industrial chemistry actually is same thing that led me to compound Ben. So I was a bit of background. I was an intelligent student. So my parents wanted me to study, you know, when you have a superstar child, you wanted me to be a doctor. Exactly. Yeah. So for some reason, it wasn't like I didn't like medicine, but I knew I didn't want to be staring at the sight of blood every day of my life. So, and coincidentally, somehow medicine did not work. You know, so pure industrial chemistry worked. So that was I chose that as a second option, and I started that. And the only reason why I chose that was I knew that I had certain type of skills. I was, let me put the word, naturally gifted in certain areas. Maybe I had developed those skills over time without even realizing that. So I loved research. You know, I loved working with numbers. I was very good with numbers. I was very good with analyzing data. So in the midst of a lot of information, I can, observe a trend, notice a pattern, build a story around the information I was seeing. And yes, I think it came as a natural flair, but along life, working with my mom in her shop, and just living, I got to strengthen that skill. So it wasn't just a skill I had naturally; it was also something that in the course of life, I had kind of built up on without really realizing that I was doing that. So the love for research and my flair for numbers, and that my analytical skill actually led me to study chemistry as my option. Okay, the power is out. Okay, it's back now. All right. So
thank you. Then you are in Nigeria, so
yeah,
fine.
in Nigeria.
I didn't have the problem talking to people in Canada, no problem.
No, but I'm currently in Nigeria. Don't worry. It happens. Okay, so like I mentioned, so I studied industrial chemistry and then graduated. I did a good result. I graduated with 2-1. But when it now came to look for job after service year and all of that, I was now thinking. Interestingly, I was applying to industries because I really just wanted to use research skills, in an industry, a company. I wanted to use pure industrial chemistry, and this opportunity came up. The opportunity, graduate training opportunity with KPMG, and for some weird reason, I just really felt like, again, like I mentioned, God has been a big part of my story. So I really felt like, okay, let me give it a try. I looked at what the job was about and who they'll be working with, and I saw that FMCGs and industries were part of it. So I'm like, okay, maybe I will be assigned, because I had this thought, I will be assigned to go work with them into those kind of industries. And so shocker a lot when I wrote the exam, and when I wrote the exam, and then we got to a point where you had to choose the function that you would work with, the advisory function, because I now knew it was consulting, but I now wanted to know which kind of consulting I'd work with. So they brought a lot of people to tell us kind of like what they do in those functions and the kind of skills required, the kind of persons that can succeed there. So none of them clicked for me until this young lady just pulled up and started talking about this particular function where they do a lot of research, they work with a lot of numbers, they make sense out of data. And I was just like, wow, that's me, So I knew that I had those skills, and I had built up on them. So for me, it was a case of, if I'm not going to do this thing that I already love, I was already used to, if I was going to move from familiar, then let me move from familiar to unfamiliar with something that I already had. And that's something that I think a lot of people miss out on. We just go, a lot of young people actually, we just go to school and want to do all the courses that we feel are high paid, which is not bad, because everybody wants a comfortable life, right?
Yeah.
But beyond that, you should be being able to identify what I call transferable skills are critical. And those skills are skills that on a regular, people look down on them. People just feel, I'm like that, it's just me. But somebody else is not like that. Somebody else is not able to do what you are doing. So being able to identify those skills and use them, translate them from one industry or one kind of job to another is also big. It's also one of the things that you would need if you want to switch a career. So for example, you've been a medical doctor for 4 years or 5 years or 6 years. And then at this point in time, you're saying, I cannot continue with this. I actually have a flair for something else. Yeah. What is that flair? How can you pivot? Is this kind of skills, transferable skills that help you to actually do a 360, and then you don't feel like you're fish out of water, in the new place that you find yourself. So that's how I got into compensation advisory, because I knew I had the skills, and it's just guided my path. So I'm a compensation expert now, and I intend to continue. People have asked me, don't you want to do broad HR? And I'm like, it's not bad, because even in the course of doing my work, right, I actively partner with those in general HR. Yeah. But pump and bend is still my core because it's what I have a flair for. It's what I have the right kind of skills and attitude and mental aptitude for. So that was the story.
So the point is, there's a core skill, and every one of us, we have that core ability. It may be innate, it may have been developed over time. So we need to focus and identify what that core skill is, which can be deployed across industries.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't matter whether it's in medicine or or whatever, that core skill is there. It can just be pivoted. Now, when I look at your LinkedIn profile, it is really intimidating when I look at all the companies you've worked for since you left school. I mean, people are scrambling to get jobs, but then you do not just have jobs, you've had serious jobs. I mean, companies that people would die to work for. I see that you were at KPMG initially, like you mentioned already, then you moved to Oando. I think that while I'm just getting used to you working for a particular company, the next time I call, I speak with you, you said you moved. And I'm wondering, how do you do this? From Oando, you moved to which other one is that now?
Friesland Campina.
The Friesland.
That's the
from Friesland, the makers of pig milk and all that.
Yeah.
And then you moved to Cummins. You were leader for Africa and Middle East. I mean, I was telling my wife, what kind of thing is Rotanna doing? And then you say you are with Seplat. Please, could you explain to us how it is easy for you to really make these moves, get this kind of jobs, this kind of position at under 40? I mean, you've done all this at well under 40. I don't know. What exactly is happening? How are you able to do this?
Okay, so I'm not going to rehash the God thing again because I believe everybody have access to that.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I think there's one particular thing that a lot of us don't leverage on, and that's personal development. Personal development, it comes in different shapes and forms. I would just speak for myself and what my journey has been and how it's kind of guided me. So when I was at KPMG, I actually thought I was going to just continue and become a partner. But again, my very inquisitive mind, I observed a trend with a good number of my clients that made me curious about what happens on the other side of consulting. And the trend that I observed was almost every time we did a project for a client, after a couple of months, they came back with additional questions. So that kind of told me that these questions don't end. I'm thinking I'm doing this interesting thing with this client. And then if the client is coming back with additional questions, that means they have met something implementing that advice that they didn't anticipate. So it kind of made me eager to want to experience life on the other side. And then when the opportunity came to Oando, I took it. But that was not what made me qualify for that position. Right? What made me, in fact, that position, after KPMG, all the jobs I have gotten, somebody recommended me without even me knowing. So it was a case of they either got to me on LinkedIn or somebody said, this lady, we'll call her on LinkedIn, that kind of thing. And that was what it was with Oando.
So let me just interrupt you a little bit. So LinkedIn, but yesterday when I was speaking with one of our career guys, he mentioned LinkedIn again. So
LinkedIn is critical. LinkedIn is quite
powerful. Really?
Very powerful.
That's good. I think it's worthy of note that anybody who's going to build a career should pay attention to LinkedIn.
Yes. Absolutely. You should have some presence on LinkedIn, and not just, and when I say presence, not just you're just commenting and talking and just doing anything you want to do. No, it should be directed, if I'll put it that way. You should have a presence. You should engage with people. Obviously engage respectfully, because you don't know who you would meet, who will be on the other side of the table interviewing you someday. And I'm saying this particularly for Gen Zs. Let me not go there, but let's not go there.
I get it. We have a lot of keypad warriors. Yeah, go on.
All right. So, because there's something about there's what respectful engagement does on any platform, where you're engaging intellectually, smartly, and respectfully. It always stands people out. All right. So I like I mentioned, there was something I was very particular about. It was building my skill, and I didn't want to build my competence and skill with Nigeria in mind. I didn't want to be a local champion. And I think that's something that a lot of people do miss. They don't realize the fact that you can be in Nigeria and you are running things outside Nigeria. Like Absolutely. I was in Cummins for a year and a half. I was responsible for compensation for Africa and the Middle East. In fact, I used to support my colleagues in Europe. Then that was also what gave me the exposure enough to be able to do the job that I'm currently doing, where I'm responsible for Nigeria and the UK, right? So, but it all started here in Nigeria. KPMG, we had training. KPMG had its own training, for its employees. If you know KPMG, they are big on training for their very trainees. They are intense on training. If you survive your first 3 years in KPMG, I don't think there's any company on earth you cannot survive in, because you will be pushed
Good one for
to
KPMG.
learn. Yeah, you'll be pushed to learn.
They need to listen to this part of it.
You'll be pushed to learn, and if you don't stretch yourself enough to learn, you actually fall along the way. They are that serious. If you survive the intense training in KPMG, and it can be fun, it's just for people say KPMG is always too serious. I don't think so. It gave me a beautiful background, but it also taught me certain skills, being the communication skills, presentation skills. After 5 years in KPMG, I could sit in front of a board and discuss something intelligently, and I wouldn't be cowering that, hey, it's my father's mate that is here. No, you're talking your stuff, you know what you're doing, you know what you're saying. And if you've developed yourself, you know your audience so well. You can say it anywhere in the world, on any platform. Yes, you may need to be able to deal with certain things, stage fright and the likes, but trust me, everybody has gone through that. So developing yourself is very key. Also having a very open mind. Like, don't think everything starts and ends in Nigeria or in your locality. I have people who grew up in my two, and for some reason their entire lives ends around my two and Festa. No, I started at Abulegba. If you know Lagos, Abulegba is not a Swiss place. That was where I grew up. But
it's the backside of town.
I don't want that to be me. Yeah, I don't want that to be me. So this Abulegba girl has money compensation for people in Europe. I mean, there's nothing that says I cannot do it anywhere in the world. But like I said, I built my skills. KPMG trained me, but I also trained myself beyond what KPMG was doing. I remember that my first 4 years, first 4 to 5 years, yes, I practically kept my life on hold. And I think that's something that we're seeing a little less of these days, delayed gratification. I was doing courses. I was writing 2 years into 2 years after I started working, I wrote an international certification exam. I passed it in one sitting. But that certification exam cost me $450. That was the exam fee. $450 then. And how much was I earning then? I'm saying 2010. What was my salary in 2010? Because I started working in 2008. What was my salary in 2010? Really? And it took me a lot to save up to say I wanted to do this, even with my KPMG training, still make our personal time to study for my area, because I knew where I was going to. I want to become a global professional, not a local professional. There were local courses at the time, but they didn't really impress me, because I will open the textbook and I'm seeing grammatical errors. Instead of me to read what I'm supposed to read, I'm correcting grammatical errors. So I just thought, this is not for me. So yes, things have gotten better over time, but don't be shy to think wide and far and dream it. If you can dream it and you can pursue it, the God factor is constant. You will get it, but you need
I think you're making a point that we are seeing repeated. As I interview people who are doing amazing stuff globally, they keep telling me, people should stop writing certifications that are local based. Do things that are internationally recognized. Play in the global world, because that is really where you want to be, and that is where you can command the kind of income or benefits that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Even the local organizations are looking for those kind of skills. Because I remember, and it's actually opened doors for me in certain places where I'm talking my stuff, and then because you can see, oh, she's GRP and CCP5, you're already. You're not just seeing me as a Black woman.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing. I remember my very first Total Rewards World at Work conference is a global association for compensation professionals like me. So I got certified October 2014, and then March 2015, I visited the US for their conference. I wanted to experience it. And I remember, you know my build now. I'm not tall. And then I wasn't this big, I didn't have chicks like this at the time. I'd be saving on my money. I'd not be doing loud with my salary then. So I remember that, when I remember after registration and all of that, the day the conference, I was in the US, the conference was supposed to start in Minneapolis. And then I walked to the conference, the check-in decks, and there's this white lady just saying hello. Obviously, there were people ahead of me smiling brightly, and then I come in front of her, and she looks like, okay, there's this look of, okay, who do we have here? Yeah, so I just gave her my details that I'm signed for the conference. So initially, what I sensed, and maybe it's wrong, maybe I perceived wrongly. I mean, what I sensed was that she was kind of aloof, like, okay, maybe this is just a student member or something. And then she clocked in my ID, my details. And the next thing, I can't forget that reaction. She looked up sharply and she was like, wow, GRP seems to be certified. Congratulations. Her entire countenance, like it went from 0 to 100 in like that fast.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh yeah, obviously I done the work now. So I just go like, okay, yeah, GRP certified. Yeah, thank you. Collected my details and I was out. And I can't forget that conference. I only saw about 4 persons from Africa. And one of those persons was my lecturer. She had lectured me in some of the courses that I had done for that certification. So there's something about you pursuing, don't be, by all means, do the local ones, right? Sometimes it's important, you have to do it, but go beyond that, go above and beyond that, because it's even more critical now. Then it might not have been so pronounced, some 10, 15 years ago, it may not have been so pronounced. But now that the world is a global village, everything is online. You can do courses online. You can do an MBA online. You can practically do almost everything. There are only a few things that you have to be physically in person to do. You can do almost anything online. So don't just say, no, think global. Because when you think global, even the local entities, they look for that. And that was what I would say, that was something that really stood me out in many of my interviews. I knew my stuff, I had the experience. I also had certifications to back it up. Till today, there's no specialized certification for my core area in Nigeria. But that was a global certification. It was research that helped me to arrive at it. And
to discover that there was even such a thing, and then to go ahead.
Absolutely. And then KPMG supported me because those courses were crazy expensive. So you don't want to know how much. I mean, the last three exams I wrote, each of them cost me $8,700, and I had to write 10 of those exams. So, but after writing those courses, the next job I was getting, I didn't smile to. I wasn't missing words when I was negotiating salaries, because I kind of feel like I had paid my dues. I mean, if now, and I knew my stuff. So
now that gets us to something. I have 2 more questions. Now, you talked about the fact that since you had paid your dues, you were now able to really demand for what you believe you are worth.
Yeah.
You understand? Now, when people leave school, they are always, they feel that they are the best thing after sliced bread, after school, maybe you made a first class, or you made a 2-1, and all that. I've met some people. I have an employee of labor, and then what kind of salary are you expecting? And the person just calls some numbers and all that. From the other side now, as somebody who is now deciding what people should earn, what benefits are necessary or right, and all that, what exactly are organizations looking for? And what exactly determines what they pay an employee?
Okay, so 2 things actually. In fact, I would say it's 1, and that's value to the business. Companies, what organizations pay for is value. And somehow each company has a way of measuring what kind of value a role would bring into the organization, and comparing it with the value that other roles bring into the organization. So there is structure. At least there should be structure. I know that I'm in Nigeria and I see some things that some supposed professionals who are really not professionals, I just feel respect. I see some things that they do which is actually wrong, where for some reason they just think that employee salaries is the avenue they should use to save money for the company. No, they're not saving money for the company. If this role has been, if a kind of value has been placed on the role, and this is what the market pays for it, as an employer, you should strive to pay it. Now, I know that business reality makes it clear that not everybody can pay everybody the same way.
Yeah.
It's just reality. It's just what it is, right? But if you can afford to pay your employees competitively, please do pay them, particularly because they are bringing that value. And there's what they determine that the value that they determine that every role will bring into the organization. So if you are vying for a role, if you've applied for a role, that role would bring certain value to the organization, and based on the value it brings, there's a compensatory reward. That's your salaries and bonuses and benefits and the likes. And that's the way it should be. I know that's not the way it is in every company, but that's the way it should be. So when you graduate from the university, most of the time, because it's not all the time, what you just have is your certificate that says you have head knowledge. That's all it is. It doesn't mean that you have experience. And on the job, I've realized that experience is actually critical. So while yes, you have the head knowledge, which is what the certificate speaks to, you also need experience. And sometimes you may already have gotten those. Maybe you interned somewhere, or you had a break in school, so you had some time to work in certain capacities. Absolutely, bring all of that to the fore. It may not always feature, but where you have the opportunity to bring all of that to the fore, bring it. It should be part of the things that you have on your LinkedIn profile, for example. I remember when I was interviewing for KPMG, and the lady told me that one of the things they needed was somebody who had market research skills, and she had basically told me, that was my second interview, she had basically told me that I was not a good fit, because I didn't have market research skills. And I had to bluntly tell her, no, I do have market research skills. It might not be the way you expect it to be, but it is a market, and it's market research. And what was it? Working in my mom's shop as her sales girl, in quotes. So during the holidays from school, I always used to support my mom. My mom was running a business. She buys stuff, she sells, And I remember that every time I was doing that, and this was all my, at least from when I finished from secondary school time till university, once during the holidays, I just realized that, I was the one telling her what products was moving, what products was generating more turnover, what products were more profitable, that we could sell at a higher profit margin. The kind of shoes, we used to sell shoes, the kind of shoe sizes that, would easily sell quickly, the ones that we don't sell quickly, but when we sell them, we get a higher margin, all of that. I was able to analyze that just by the data, the fact that I was the one in the shop making sales difference. So
observing
I have to put it to the lady that, no, I have market research because that's a market. It is,
like Professor Ekekwe will always talk about, the Igbo apprenticeship system, which is so powerful that you take a young boy from the village, you take him to the city, he apprentices under his oga for 5 years or thereabout, and he learns the rudiments of the business. Absolutely. He may not have a BSc or an MSc, but then they come out and you see them doing so well because they understand. You look at someone and say, why don't you go for this product? He explains to you why he cannot go for that product. Go for it. And that is because he has the real market knowledge of what he is doing. And that is brilliant. So people should be able to value each of their experiences, because
absolutely.
You see somebody.
If you don't value it, you wouldn't put it up there. You wouldn't put
exactly.
It, you
exactly.
Wouldn't put
because
it up there. So
we tend to look down on our experiences because they came to us, free of charge. And we even think that they are not valid. You know, I was born in Onitsha, and perhaps I missed out on a lot of these things because I hated going to the market to help my parents. But I believe that if I had gone to the market to help my parents, I would have learned a whole lot of valuable stuff.
Or maybe that wasn't just your path in life.
Well, like I don't know. I don't know. Today I should do business, and I think that it may have helped me a great deal.
Yeah,
all right. Now, lastly, now people talk a lot about our education system in Nigeria is all this. What is there a role that doing well in school plays? You are in HR. Is there a role that doing well in school plays? No matter how you see the education system, is there really a role that coming out with a good grade plays?
Yes, that's just the reality. Yes, absolutely. If I would use, again, I will always start with my experience. So maybe it's niche, but it's actually a trend I see consistent. KPMG graduate training program, they won't even talk to you if you didn't have a 2-1. You won't even be screened for
you won't get into the door.
You won't get into the door to even write the exam, right? And beyond that, it was not just your university result. They also used your WAEC. Then I don't know whether they still do that now, but then you needed to have made your 5 core subjects in one sitting. You know, not 2 sittings, 1 sitting. So those were the core. You need to be not older than a certain age. It was a graduate training program, so not older than, was it 25 or 26 at the time we were writing the exam? 25 or 26, or one of the two. You must have had minimum of a 2-1 in any course. So even if you did Yoruba and you had 2-1, you qualified to write the test. But you could have studied. Okay, no, medicine doesn't have 2-1 and 2-2. I don't think they do, but I don't know. But you could have studied engineer or something and made it 2-2. You didn't have the opportunity, right? So, but beyond, and that's why, maybe because as a country, Nigeria, we are still very result focused. But I also realized that it's not just Nigeria, because if you're applying for is a postgraduate scholarship or something, even those countries that you are going to, you run into the UK, Canada, Germany, Russia, all of them, there's a certain cadre that they don't give those opportunities to do. So graduating with a good grade would always opens the door some way. But I think what I think is actually more critical is that more often than not, if you are able to graduate with a good grade from our Nigerian universities, which are already tough as it is, you know, many things not working, there are just a lot of things not in place. If you're able to set your heart to it and graduate with a good result, I can bet you that you have built certain skills, certain life skills, not just career skills, certain life skills that would help you to succeed in life generally. You'll be disciplined enough to, you would have even built some time management skills, because you know when you should be at lectures, when you should be sleeping, when you should study, when you should do certain kind of things. You would have built some planning skills, you know, planning yourself around your entire schedule, around all of that. So beyond just the result itself, it makes you, largely, for the most part, that's if you have had like a rounded life, it makes you a better person, because you would have built some skills, some patterns of life that would help you to acclimatize better on the job, help you to do better and all of that. So absolutely yes. I would say that anytime. If when you go even outside the country, for people who do masters, or maybe people who relocate using the study route, the person who gets a distinction and the person who gets what's the next level, the person who graduates summa cum laude, there's a reason why those things are even there in those kind of countries that we say they are not particular about certificates. Yes, they're not particular about certificate for the masses, but the people that stand out anywhere in the world are always recognized. Absolutely. I remember that one of the things that was that my Cummins job. One of the things, because my boss in Cummins, you know, he's not certified. He's not certified as I am. So he used to tease me, how come my direct report has 2 certifications? And the guy is old, you know, he clocked 50 last year. Was it 2 years ago? I can't remember now. But, you know, obviously, I was the youngest person on his team. I've been the youngest person he's ever had on his team. And then he was wondering how I had 2 certifications, because even my peers who were at least 10 years older than me did not have the certification that I had, right? To an extent, they didn't have the kind of poor experience that I had. So he used to tease me that how were you able to do this? You know, it's sometimes when I tease him about what I had to do, you know, and all of that, like, wow, you know. So and he, you know, it's the fact that you're able to have those results. It's something that it would open doors for you. That is what I realized. I realized that he was teasing me. There was a time where there was a particular project that he was supposed to be on, and then I think he wasn't able to handle it or something. And then he goes, "We're talking about you can do this. You made 96% in this course." And I didn't actually realize that in one of the courses I did for my certification, job evaluation and basic design, you know, I scored 96%. I did not know that this guy, even me, I did not realize that. I knew that all of them I scored over 90%, right? But how he was like, if you scored 96% in this course, that means you'll be able to
do this. Yeah.
You do this, and then I will support you. And that was one of the things that exposed me to the leeway into the work I now do, where I now work. So somehow you really don't know what gets to make you feature. So every time, everywhere you are, always put your best foot, your best self forward. Let it just be a pattern of your life, not something you're doing because you want to do. Whatever you find yourself doing, always put your best self, your best foot forward. And it will definitely, it may not make way for you. You may not feel like you're getting benefit from it today, but somewhere along the line, you definitely will. Somewhere along the line.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much, Rotanna. I know you're already at work, and in the next few minutes, you will be swarmed. Thank you very much for taking this time. I have thoroughly enjoyed this time. And we will allow people to schedule calls with you one-on-one to speak with you, because you will fix the time when they can do that on the platform. And we hope that they get valuable advice from you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for allowing me to do this. I enjoy, and I look forward to meeting the myriads of persons who I get to meet. Who knows?
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.